Hola, estudiantes. Today we are going to be reviewing information about subject pronouns and all of the pronouns that we would use in Spanish. I will be referencing this chart that's behind me on the wall, and hopefully you'll be able to read the things that I post up on there. First of all, let's start by talking about a subject pronoun and what that is. A subject pronoun, or just a pronoun, is a word that takes the place of a noun. For example, in English, I might say, Pat is my husband, and I could change out the word Pat for he is my husband. Another example would be if I said Allison, Emily, and Megan are nice, and then changed it to they are nice. Okay, so that's an example of how we would use a pronoun in English, and a subject pronoun is just a pronoun that's the subject of the sentence. Okay, so in Spanish we have several subject pronouns just like we do in English. The first one, and in this section of the chart we're going to talk about that, is where we talk about yo, and yo means I, and I use this pronoun when I want to talk about myself, me alone by myself. And again, the word is yo. You can get your yo-yo, what's up, and YOLO jokes out of the way right now. All right, so that is when I'm going to talk about myself. Yo means I. The next section of the chart right here is when I am going to use the word tú. And tú in Espanol has an accent for this tú. And tú is for when I'm going to talk to someone that I know, a familiar person, okay? Because tú means you. So, for example, I might say if I'm talking to you, you are nice, you are smart, stuff like that. In Spanish, there's two different words that we would use to talk to someone. Tú is used for a familiar person. A familiar person, example of that would be family, friends, or someone who is younger than you. Okay, so that would be familiar, and again, the word is tú, and tú has an accent for this one. My next section of the chart, on the bottom left, is when I am going to talk about someone, and there's three pronouns that we use for this section of the chart. The first one is él, which means he, and it has an accent mark. It's different from another word in Spanish. Él means he. So like in the sentence that I used in my example for Pat is my husband, I could say Pat es mi esposo, or él es mi esposo, he is my husband. And I use this pronoun to talk about a guy, a man, a boy, a dude, whatever it is that you want to say. Él is used to talk about a man. And it doesn't really matter how old they are, it doesn't matter if you know them or not. If you're talking about them, they're not there, so they don't care. Okay, the next one is ella, and ella means she. Okay, so we have él and ella for he and she. And ella I use to talk about a girl. Okay, a woman, a chick, an amiga, whatever it is that you want to say. And so I use él and ella both to talk about someone, anyone. I don't have to be talking to them, I'm talking about them. The last pronoun that goes down in this section is usted, and this is you formal. It's kind of like when we had tú over here for you familiar. You formal is usted, and in Spanish we have a formal way when I want to talk to a formal type of person. So I use usted when I'm talking to someone that is not familiar, that's formal. Okay, so a formal person, I use usted to talk to a formal person. An example of that would be somebody that is in a position of respect or authority. Okay, so some examples I have here would be me. If you're talking to me, since I'm older than you and I'm your teacher, you should use usted. If you were talking to a police officer, the president, or really anyone who's older than you, you would use usted when you're talking to them. Okay, notice that all of the pronouns on this side of the chart, I have yo, tú, él, ella, and usted. All of these are when I'm just going to talk to or about one person. This side of the chart is going to be used for pronouns that I use to talk about more than one person. Okay, so just like up here, I had yo to talk about me by myself. Over here, I am going to talk about myself and others, and there's two pronouns that I use in this top right section. The first one is nosotros, and the second one is nosotras. They both mean we, and I'm going to talk about the difference. Nosotros is masculine, nosotras is feminine, kind of like él is masculine and ella is feminine. Okay, so nosotros is we whenever there is at least one man or one boy in the group, okay? So if I was talking about me and my husband, I would say nosotros. But if I was talking about me and my friend who's a girl, I would say nosotras because we're both girls. Boys, you're pretty much only going to use nosotros because whenever you're in the group, there's a boy in the group. Girls, whenever you are talking about a group of people that includes yourself and all the rest of the people are just girls, then it's nosotras. Okay, so both of these mean we, and the only difference between them is the ending there, the OS or the AS for nosotros and nosotras. Nosotras ends in AS. All right, so both of these words I use for we, which is to talk about myself and others. I have to be in the group in order to use nosotros or nosotras. Okay, so if I was going to talk about anytime, if it's me just by myself, then I use yo. If it's me with other people, then I use nosotros or nosotras, depending upon whether I'm a boy or a girl. All right. This section right here is sort of a special section that we won't use in class very often. This is called the vosotros or the vosotras form, and it's just like nosotros and nosotras, okay? So we have vosotros, which is you all, and we often call this the y'all form because it's a familiar way of talking to someone, or it's actually a familiar way of talking to a group of people, a group of familiar people. Vosotros is the masculine, vosotras is the feminine. And again, this is when I'm talking to a group of familiar people. It has to be a group of people that I know, that I'm familiar with. The reason why we're not going to use this section of the chart as much is because it's only used in Spain. They only use this way of talking for Spain. All of the other Spanish-speaking countries do not use vosotros and vosotras. They just use a different form, which we're going to talk about in a second. But again, you should be able to recognize the vosotros and the vosotras. You don't have to use it, you're just going to need to recognize it. Okay, and so again, to tie these together, this is when I talk to one familiar person in the tú form, and over here is when I talk to a group of familiar people in the vosotros and vosotras. Down in this section, again, I'm going to have 3 different pronouns that I'm going to use, but they're very similar. The first one is ellos. Sorry about that. Ellos means they. And again, I have a feminine version. Ellas. Ellas also means they. This they is when it's a group of all boys or a group of mixed gender, okay? Kind of like nosotros, kind of like vosotros. We have ellos, and all of these are masculine. So anytime there's at least one boy in the group, then I'm going to use the masculine. Only if the group is all girls would I use ellas or vosotras or nosotras, okay? But anytime one boy enters the equation, it goes to the masculine. So I have ellos and ellas, and both of these are ones that I use to talk about a group of people. Okay, so I talk about someone. Just as I talked about one boy or one girl over here with he or she, él and ella, I talk about a group of boys or girls or mixed gender, ellos and ellas on this side. The last one is going to be a plural of usted, okay, which I use again to talk to a formal person. I need to be able to talk to a group of formal people. So for that, I would use ustedes, which is you all, kind of like y'all, formal, okay? So when I'm talking to a group of people that I'm not familiar with, a group of formal people, okay? Now again, ustedes is only used to talk to a group of formal people in Spain, all right? And Spain is the only place where they differentiate between formal and informal for a group of people. Everywhere else in the world, in the Spanish-speaking world, they just use ustedes to talk to any group of people. It doesn't matter who you're talking to, whether they're formal or informal. You're going to use ustedes to talk to a group of people. It doesn't matter who they are. So if it's a group of your friends or a group of teachers, friends you're familiar with, teachers would be older than you, so they're formal. In Spain, that would matter. Okay, you would use vosotros with your friends. But in everywhere else in the world, you would just use ustedes for all of them, okay, whether it was your teachers or your friends. Okay, so just to review, the pronouns that we have here are yo, which is I, tú, which is you, familiar, to talk to someone, él, ella, and usted, for he, she, and you, formal, nosotros and nosotras, for we, myself and the group. Nosotros is masculine, nosotras is feminine. Vosotros and vosotras, which again, remember, is only used in Spain, and we won't be tested on this form, but you still need to recognize it. And then down here we have ellos, ellas, and ustedes, for they or you all formal when I'm talking to a group of formal people in Spain or just any group of people anywhere else in the world. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Adios.